So, as global tensions simmer, we're inviting two experts to discuss the United States' objectives in these ongoing conflicts and their broader implications. The Trump administration's foreign policy, marked by an America First doctrine, seeks to recalibrate U.S. involvement worldwide. From the Middle East to Eastern Europe and South Asia, Washington's strategy blends pressure, support for allies, and strategic ambiguity. So to unpack these complex dynamics, we are joined by Malak Francis, who's a member of the American Republican Party, and he's joining us from Beirut. And from Cairo, Professor Amany Soliman, who's the director of the Mediterranean Studies Institute at Alexandria University. Welcome to the program, both of you. Thanks for being here. I'll start with you, Mr. Francis. How do you view the U.S. role when it comes to Israel's war on Gaza? And why does the US seem to have this we will support Israel come what may idea?
As you know, and it's very unfortunate that the Israeli lobby controls the US policy in the Middle East. And President Trump has been a good ally of Israel. He gave them the green light to go into Gaza and unfortunately murder Palestinian children and women. And now they're starving the Palestinian children to death. And if he claims he wants peace in the Middle East and he tries to be the president of peace, he failed because he could put pressure on the Israeli prime minister, who is a war criminal, at least to allow food to enter Gaza. And he hasn't done it yet. When you see children starving to death and the whole world is watching and doing nothing about it, what happened to human rights? What happened to peace? What happened to love? And those poor children cannot even find grass to eat. And it's very unfortunate. That's what you call a war crime. And President Trump, with due respect to him, he's a war criminal because he's supporting the starvation of the children and the genocide in Gaza. He promised to be the president of peace. He has done nothing yet in the Ukraine and Russia. He promised to solve it in 24 hours. Nothing has done yet. Is done. Libya now is unfortunately is on fire. You have the Sudan, and but to go back to the Palestinian issue, this is the only issue that must be solved first, because there will be no peace without a Palestinian state. And if we don't do it, we'll never have peace. Secondly, the Iran nuclear program, he promised to sign an agreement with Iran, has done nothing yet. So I want him to allow his advisors to do their jobs, because he wants to decide and try to accomplish what he promises, but he cannot. Steve Woodcock has been doing a good job, so he should let him do his job. I believe in him, and he proved to be a good diplomat, because in the State Department nowadays, we don't have good diplomats anymore. We used to in the past, and Secretary Rubio doesn't have the experience to communicate with world leaders. So it's very unfortunate that the United States, that was a beacon of peace, beacon of human rights and democracy, became United States of Trump alone. And he believes he is the emperor of the world. In order to bring peace, you must respect the people you deal with, and he has no respect. President Putin is a smart diplomat, and President Trump cannot force him to do what President Trump wants. This is unacceptable to Putin and to President Xi of China. So we hope that President Trump will reconsider his policies and at least try to feed the Palestinians in Gaza, and at the later on put pressure on the Israeli government to stop murdering the Palestinian children and women, and they should get out of Gaza. And in regard to the Israeli hostages, yes, Hamas, maybe it's time for Hamas to free them, because keeping them is not helping the cause of the Palestinian people.
Okay. It sounds like you're quite a disappointed Republican Party member with the president. Let me bring in Professor Soliman. Some people believe that the United States isn't really interested in genuine conflict resolution, and it serves them to keep regional rivals divided. What's your view?
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. Well, I don't like generalization because some of these conflicts are really affecting the U.S. interests in certain regions. Others have been depleting the American treasury. Some of them has caused American trade some problems. So to say that, generally speaking, that the U.S. doesn't want to solve regional conflicts, this is a generalization that we cannot focus on. What we can say is that the US now is given priority to diplomacy rather than intervention, or to say that the US is putting priority to which files should be tackled first before the others. For instance, they might have thought about intervening in what's happening in Gaza when they found that Houthis in the entrance of the Red Sea are attacking U.S. ships and are affecting international trade. So they are putting terms to end this insurgency with the Houthi and telling the Israelis to slow down on what they are, the massacre they are committing in Gaza. As for the Ukrainian, Russian-Ukrainian conflict, they also wanted to end, but as you said, they are making use of all this bleeding that is happening to the Russians and the Europeans. The Americans, the US president want an end to this conflict, but he wants what he called compensations by the treasures of Ukraine. So I don't think that they don't want the regional conflicts to end, but first they are putting priorities. Second, they are trying to get the most out of it in favor of American interests. But of course, they want them to be solved, but they are not in a hurry.
Okay, and coming back to you, Mr. Francis, what do you make of this US brokered ceasefire proposal, the 60-day ceasefire?
It's not bad because the Palestinians in Gaza are starving to death, and maybe we should have 60 days, in order for food to be allowed to enter Gaza. The children of Gaza are crying, and the whole world close its ears and its eyes to their sufferings. That's the first time in the history of humanity children are starving to death, and no one is doing anything about it. Our friends in Qatar, in United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia gave him thousands of billions of dollars, and we got nothing in return for it. United Nations is very ineffective. The Arab League is very ineffective. So where are the Palestinians going to go? Are they going to force them out of Gaza into Egypt, into Jordan, into Syria, and into Lebanon? This is unacceptable. We are United States. We are the Republican Party that stands for human rights, stands for democracy, stands for freedom. Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves in 1863. He was a good Republican. We, the Republicans who don't support President Trump now, because he's not working in the interest of the United States. He claimed that he's working for America, America first. But everything now is getting very expensive in the United States. The economy is going to collapse. His trade war is not helping anyone because the consumers are going to pay extra because whatever is worth $2, now it's worth $5 or $6. Many poor American families cannot afford to buy food for their children or pay for the tuition of their children. Same thing in Europe, even in Russia and in China, all over. So the consumers are the one who will be the victim of President Trump's war, and he's losing. He hasn't won one thing yet. He wants to sign a nuclear agreement with Iran, but the Israelis are putting pressure on him. He should be an American president, not an Israeli puppet. This is unacceptable. We, the majority in the Republican Party, don't agree with his policy. Unfortunately, he and his followers control the party. If he works for peace, we are for him. We support him. We work with him. but we want to work for the interests of the United States and the interests of our allies and our friends, and try to stop war. If he wants to get the Nobel Peace Prize, he should work for peace. He should respect the people he deal with. He cannot force the president of Russia, President Putin, or even Zelensky. He threw him out of the White House, insulted him. That's not diplomacy. It's time for him to rethink his policy.
Well, I'm going to come to you, Mr. Francis, on Iran in just a moment. But just coming to you, Professor Soliman, do you think that Trump has had any international diplomacy successes yet when it comes to Ukraine or Gaza?
No, I don't think so. He's trying, and his administration is trying just to market the incident that he could bring back the U.S.-Israeli hostage from Gaza. But this is not what we call victory. This is not what he promised during his electoral campaign or in the start of his reign, that he's going to put an end to several conflicts in the world, especially in the Middle East and in Ukraine. I don't see any kind of diplomatic success or peace achievements or ending any kind of insurgency or atrocity. Actually, the history of mankind will remember him as the U.S. president was witnessing the genocide and the war crimes happening in Gaza without putting an end to them. He came to the Middle East, and we all expected that by the end of his visit, something was going to change, but actually nothing changed. And on the contrary, Netanyahu announced that he's going to increase the military operations in Gaza, and the language of the Israeli far right is getting louder and louder. Perhaps Europe is doing much more. At least we see European countries trying to put pressure on Israel or boycott them partially or fully, while the US, which really can succeed, is not trying to do this. Sometimes people think that the US now, under his presidency, is following the Israelis, not the other way around, and what you would expect from the superpower of the world, to be just a follower to a small state, criminal state in the Middle East.
And I'll stay with you for the moment, Professor. Do you see a shift in US strategy under Trump? What would you say are the differences between this United States administration and previous ones?
I think this one, or the Republican now, and in his previous term, they are refraining from military intervention unless it's really needed. They are also trying to use propaganda more, focusing more on economic rather than political achievement. And this is by nature what Trump is, and the core of his campaign was about the economy and making America first and making America great again. And he promised that he can do all these things by focus on the economy. But of course, you cannot make your economy better while you are leading a world in turbulence. So I think he thought that by not intervening military in other parts of the world and focusing on things like tariffs or economic deals or taking funds from the Gulf countries, that he's going to achieve better economy for the Americans. But so far, I don't see this in any interest of the American citizen. This administration is focusing more on propaganda rather than doing what is really in the interest of the American citizen.
And do you think, Professor Soliman, that some of these conflicts is the United States using its strategy of leveraging conflicts to try and maintain and influence without it having direct involvement? In other words, how many of these conflicts are essentially proxy wars?
I don't think the current administration really involved in proxy wars. Maybe some people say, or some analysts say, that they tried to do this in the episode we have seen a couple of weeks ago between India and Pakistan, but it failed and they retreated fast. I don't see proxy wars as more as I see more of turbulence, incapability of taking real decision. I think because we are expecting much of the US, so when it's failing, we start to think that it's their scheme. They want to fail. They are imitating failure. But the truth is, no, they are failing and they are not capable of directing the world in where they really wanted to go.
I'm staying with you, Professor Soliman, because we seem to have lost Mr. Francis. So I'll stay with you if that's okay. How should the United States be managing its relationship with China, do you think?
Put an end to the Chinese accelerating economic boom, if we may say. And this is not just now the Trump administration. The US is worried about what China is doing for almost now 20 years. If you take a look at the G7 summit in 2022, you will find that the Americans started the so-called global initiative for infrastructure and investment. This is merely to counter the Belt and Road Chinese initiative to make both investments and relief in African poor countries and Asian developing countries. You will also see that even Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan in 2022, and she caused to halt all military cooperation between China and US. It was limited, but it was there. So I
okay,
think
I'm just going to. We've
not...
just got Mr. Francis back, and we're running out of time, so I'll just interrupt you there if that's okay. I'll come to you, Mr. Francis. We were going to talk about Iran, and unfortunately, we only have 2 minutes left.
Okay.
What do you make of how the Trump administration is handling Iran with this maximum pressure campaign?
It's not really President Trump, it's Steve Witkoff, who has been doing an excellent job with the Iranian representatives. And I believe that if he's left alone, he will have a nuclear agreement with the Iranian government. Because President Trump wants, and the Israelis, that Iran will never be able to have a nuclear bomb or nuclear weapons. And the Iranians promised not to do it. So their program is only for civilian purpose. And the Israelis are still putting pressure on the Trump administration and on the Congress. Because if Trump doesn't listen to him, they control they control the Congress. And it's very unfortunate, because I always say Washington, D.C. is an Israeli occupied territory. And the majority of the Republican representatives at the Congress are pro-Israel. And they are working for the interests of Israel against the interests of the United States. And to me, that's treason, because they are elected by the American people. They should work for the American people, and they should work for the interests of the United States. Israel has been costing us billions and billions of dollars. In 1948, George Marshall was Secretary of State. He asked President Truman not to recognize Israel's right to exist because it will cause problems for us. He was right. Truman told him, the Jews gave me money, the Arabs gave me no money, and he did recognize Israel. Next day, Secretary of State George Marshall resigned from his position because he was ahead of his time. Now, I think we are looking for good American representatives to work for the interests of America and the American people. And President Trump always say, America first, America first. So let us work for America, because peace in the Middle East, peace in Ukraine, Russia, does help the interests of the United States and the American people and the whole world. So it's time to work for peace. It's time to respect the people we deal with, and try to work for their interests at the same time, because every nation has an interest. We cannot put the American interests first, because sometimes it doesn't help our allies and our friends. So it's time to move forward. It's time to work for peace. And if he wants to be the president of peace, we'll work with him. If he wants to get the Nobel Peace Prize, we'll help him to get it if he works for peace.
Well,
People in Gaza are starving to death, and it's time to stop the genocide in Gaza and feed the starving Palestinian children.
Well, thank you very much indeed to both of my guests for joining us here on the program. Malak Francis, a member of the American Republican Party, and Professor Amany Soliman as well, Director of the Mediterranean Studies Institute at Alexandria University. Thank you very much to both of you for being here on the program.